For the fourth time in 6 championship matches, QPR bounced back from a losing position on Saturday afternoon, this time drawing 1-1 with Millwall at Loftus Road, thanks to Michy Frey's 4th finish of the campaign, just 6 minutes after Duncan Watmore found the opener. It was yet another placid and laboured Rangers performance on the whole though, and despite being unbeaten in the championship since our opening 3-1 loss to West Brom, we remain winless at Loftus Road in 3 league appearances. Things just don't seem to be quite clicking as of yet for this new look Rangers side, so as usual I'm going to break down Saturday's performance and give my own observations on what is and isn't working. Do make sure to hit like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, and let's jump straight into it. With my flight home from Crete on Friday night being considerably delayed and not getting through my front door until 5 AM Saturday morning, I wasn't sure which company I disliked more between EasyJet and Sky, as I made a bleary-eyed trip to Loftus Road some 5 hours later. Now, I wasn't foolish enough to have hoped that I'd be in store for a London derby so scintillating that it would shake away minor jet lag and a lack of sleep, but I was feeling optimistic that we might at least see a first league home win. Sheffield Wednesday away had been painful, but we'd saved a point against the odd, as it appears to be becoming a key trait of this side. It was a typical just back from international football display, and I was hoping we'd be more fired up for this, giving Martí Cifuentes' considerably rotated Carabao Cup side on Tuesday night. Such is the problem, of course, of resting so many legs for Palace. We were unlucky in the end not to take that game to penalties really, but the inevitable elimination upped the ante for this Saturday league fixture that we'd more or less willingly sacrificed any League Cup ambitions for. Marty went for 3 changes in the end to last weekend, with Jake Clark-Salter's minor injury thankfully turning out to be exactly that, meaning Dunn returned to right back in Santos' place. Madsen meanwhile swapped in for Colback in central midfield, as did Koki Saito for first-time goalscorer Alfie Lloyd. My hopes of a more energised performance though were unfortunately dashed pretty early into the first half. This was a Millwall side more organised and more athletic than I can remember in recent times, and while they had less of the ball than Rangers purely because we kept passing it around our own box, they created much more than us. Goalscorer Duncan Watmore had multiple dress rehearsals before netting the real deal, missing a right-footed effort on 7 minutes and having his left footer saved on 11 minutes. A recurring problem until Millwall broke the deadlock was down either wing, where Neil Harris had his team pushed incredibly wide to stretch Rangers, and he had his centre mids pushing out to create overloads which repeatedly caused us issues, like when Roman Esse was played into the box with ease on 20 minutes, which Nardi thankfully blocked from a narrow angle. Millwall exposed us in the exact same area of the box 3 minutes later, with only the side netting preventing Macaulay Langstaff from opening his championship goal scoring account. It worked on the other side of the pitch too though, as we saw when Watmore found his 6th goal of the season on 34 minutes. Right back Leonard played a cutting ball from the right wing to Langstaff on the edge of the box to remove Powell, Saito and Madsen from the equation, who turned his way into the box and sprayed a low-driven cross into the middle, which Honeyman cleverly left for Watmore to bury into the chasm that had opened. It had been coming, there was no doubt about that. During this time, Rangers have really only created 2 chances of note, both coming from our Danes. The first was a Nicholas Madsen shot over the bar that looked much closer in person than it does in the highlights, while the second was a blocked Lucas Anderson shot from Koki Saito's darting run into the penalty area. There were multiple clear reasons we'd done so little compared to Millwall, the first being our insistence on playing the ball around the back, which is at best tedious and at worst anxiety inducing when we look like we're going to get it wrong. The ball just isn't moved fast enough up the pitch for our attack to get a sniff. I'm not saying that he was a particular problem, but I think Marty has some thinking to do at right back on this. I love Jimmy Dunn as much as the next are, but he's technically awkward and he hates receiving the ball at pace, meaning the majority of the few balls that did make their way out to him are swiftly returned backwards. It's not his fault really, because he's quite literally not a right back, but I just don't think he is going to be the permanent solution here. In the backline's defence though, our age-old problem is the centre of midfield. Our centre mids are not interested in dropping deep, receiving the ball, turning and progressing it. This has been a problem not just this season, not just last, but since the days at least of Mark Warburton, and we've still not done anything to resolve it. This is why I was such a big advocate of Isaac Hayden coming back in the summer, because his placement into our midfield in January was the only time we temporarily cured it last season. Kenneth Powell inverting from left back to midfield in this match, as he did against Palace, was clearly Cifuentes trying to address this problem in the middle. But once again, he didn't really receive the ball enough in these positions to make it really effective, and when we lost the ball, he didn't really know where to stand to defend. I've talked multiple times this season about our lack of midfield making us so easy to defend against. We never attack through the middle, so teams just need to hold shape down our wings to nullify us. And so of course, one of the very few times we finally did attack down the middle, we scored. It took QPR just 6 minutes to find a reply to going a goal down. The team with the best record in the league for winning points from losing positions once again restored order. It's equal parts encouraging, exciting, and incredibly frustrating because we can't score from 0-0, but we can score almost with ease once the pressure is on. This is a QPR team that appears to be willing to fight when it needs to, but not one that's willing to take risks when it doesn't. But it was a counter-attacking masterpiece, actually. Cook blocked another Langstaff ball into the box and calmly scooped it out to Anderson just outside, whose piercing ball went through to Dembele down the middle and it broke the Millwall press. Karamoko drove forward, now free to wander through the centre of the pitch, and he played Frey into the box, who expertly bent the ball around the body of Jensen in goal. Frey's form this season is one of the big positives right now. That's now 4 goals and 1 assist from 7 appearances in all competitions, and he played very well again despite limited service, hassling and pressing and creating space. Dembele himself, despite his involvement being stunted again out on that right wing rather than in the 10, is now on 3 assists from 7. That's 1 less than Chris Willock last season, who was joint second for assists, having played 32 more games than Dembele currently has. The trouble with our almost immediate reply though is that things went back to normal for Rangers in the second half. In fact, they regressed because we had just 2 shots in the second half compared to 5 in the first. This was Wolves ball v2, and our problems of hesitant passing around the back and a vacant midfield were even more pronounced. Lucas Anderson, the poor sod, had a torrid time out there. He hadn't exactly been prolific in the first half, but he'd had a shot at goal and he set our eventual equaliser in motion. In this second period, he couldn't even complete the most basic of passes, regularly losing the ball. In fact, at one point he found himself free to drive at goal, to shoot or to pass, but he took so long in making the decision that he had his pocket picked before he could do so. His head had just completely gone. I'm not sure whether this is down to the injury he sustained earlier this season, but I think Lucas probably needs to spend a bit of time on the bench. Our displays against Wednesday and Millwall have shown that we're too slow with both Danes in the side, and Dembele really needs to be the one playing down the middle for us to have an attacking spark right now. Somehow though, Anderson wasn't the first QPR player to make way. That was Koki Saito for Paul Smith on the hour, and I think Saito was unlucky to have been cut first and probably should have stayed on the pitch given he'd caused problems once or twice in that first half. Anderson nearly redeemed a limp display with a Smith assisted shot 5 minutes later, but he had his effort blocked once again. And 2 minutes later, Cifuentes finally put him out of his misery, with Alfie Lloyd coming on in his place and Varane replacing Madsen. I thought Jonathan Varane did make a good difference in the middle, at least in their half of the pitch, a few times finding space and players where others couldn't. His quick switch over to the left to Dembele created our best chance of the half on 72 minutes, with Karamoko's looping cross to Dunn at the back post forcing a goal line clearance. The only redemption for Rangers in this second half really was that Millwall had eased up a bit themselves. They had a trio of chances 10 minutes into the half, a Saville free kick, a curling effort from Honeyman, and a saved Esse shot from outside the box, but thankfully Nardi was in fine form for the rest of this match and he produced a few really good stops. We very nearly weren't let off though when Esse turned sharply into the box and fizzed another dangerous low ball across the mouth of the goal and past an outstretched Nardi, but Honeyman somehow missed an open net. But for QPR we never really looked close other than Dunn's header. Once Lloyd came on, we almost exclusively attacked down that wing to no avail, and after weathering some nervy Millwall corners at the death of the game, we wasted the precious closing seconds of 5 minutes of added time, with Powell stretching out Jake Clark-Salter's crab rather than quickly taking our final free kick, with the ref then blowing for full time soon after we did take the free kick, which just about summed it all up for QPR. As I said at the start, this team obviously isn't quite clicking yet and it's going to take time. It's hard to pin it to any one thing. Is it the formation? Is it that these players can't play the system? Is it that it's going to take time for this team to gel? It's probably all of those in reality. The positives remain the same though right now. Nardi and Frey are putting in strong performances at either end of the pitch. We've scored in every single match we've played in this season and in a total of 12 consecutive matches stretching back to last season. And then once again, this team does have the fight when needed to not get beat, which is a good position to be in when things aren't clicking yet. Our home form does need to improve though, and the real concern for me right now is that we just don't seem to be able to dictate play or impose ourselves in level game states. Something needs to give for us to start owning games. It's a problem that we will all of course be desperately hoping that Elias Chair can resolve, now reportedly back on the training pitch according to Marty. We can surely only get better once he eventually comes in for his first minutes this season. Now I don't want QPR to be so reliant on him for another season running, but then again very few non-parachute payment teams in this division will look the same without their best player. Either way, the sooner he comes back, the better. Anyway, that's it from me today. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about this performance. And if you've enjoyed the video, you're not already a subscriber, please do hit like and subscribe. It really helps me to grow my audience and reach more people. Thanks very much again, and I'll hopefully see you in a future video. Cheers!